Hello, good day. Moscow Live. It's us, Paweł Zarubin and Katina Bezowska, welcoming all our viewers from the Merchant's Yard. A few moments before President arrives, and we are agog to see him, because we've got lots of questions that have piled up. And Catherine and I know about millions, actually, of questions from our TV viewers, but we do not know what is of interest for you, the media representatives. And now you have a unique opportunity. We see that you are streaming, but stop streaming, please. Set your phones aside. And we're seeing that you are on your seats, but set the phones aside, even if you are filming us and the colleagues around, or reading through the news, scrolling through the news, as is typical of us media people. But quite soon we will hear from our studio, and now we have a few minutes to talk with you. And it's a live program, as Paul has just said. The entire country has been following us and will be following us. And now you have an opportunity to ask a question. Please introduce yourself. I've looked into your beautiful eyes, and I knew you would approach me. And it's attainable. And I'm from Belarus. Belarus, what is of interest for Belarus? Belarus wants to know how we're going to develop our common home, the Union State, and the threats that we're faced with together with Russia. Thank you. So the main media event is happening today, and that is quite obvious and felt by everybody. And here we have international and domestic media people from the Union State. Also, we'll have a marathon of questions, and the hall is divided into several sectors. And here from the scene, I can see all of you quite well. So when you're going to raise your hands and to ask the questions, President will be able to see you too. I'm going to move to this sector, and here we have a very young journalist. I'm 13 years of age. Where are you from, and what outlet do you represent? We're from Moscow. We represent Children's Editorial House. So you are a journalist, aged 13, in the front row. What is your question? Our question is about how President Putin receives valuable inputs about what our people actually need. Well, we all have been receiving valuable inputs for the past weeks and even today. So we have piled up a huge array. You know, Paul, without a doubt, but I want to ask everybody how to attract President's attention. We know that you will struggle to fight for his patience and to attract his patience. I'm moving here. The entire room will be simmering with impatience. And this is a kokoshnik headwear, a national symbol. Will you please introduce yourself? Yes, my name is Yulia Korotkova, an anchor from Volga 24, and this is from the Nizhny Novgorod region. And it's not only about beauty and feminine character. It's the embodiment of our region, the red color and the hochlama. And the question will be about the prohibition of vapes, a very relevant topic, and we'll have more about that today. And here we can see, what is that? What does this sign say? It says Ichu from the Yakut language. It means cold. So what we want to ask is the energy tariffs question. It is of critical importance because in the Arctic North, well, the Far Eastern increment is operational, but we probably want it to be raised. You all have these placards here. And in past years, people brought huge placards and as if they were at a rally, and one could not see the face of the journalists behind those placards. And afterwards, well, the request was to reduce the size of those placards to A4 format. And here we also have a signage saying Astrakhan, the city of Astrakhan, and This depicts our local fish. So we want to ask a question about North-South corridor and the shallowness of Volga issue that tells on the water and bioresources. So this is the wobbler fish. And here we have media representatives that are very knowledgeable of the moods of people in their regions. And here I can see a girl with Labubu dolls. Why so? I'm not sure where the stress falls, Labubu or Labubu. Why have you brought them? It's TV channel 360, and those Labubu dolls have been a game changer for the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, becoming a new symbol. And we invented this trend in early 2025, and we merged them with the faces of our politicians, the Governor of Central Bank, Nabiullina, Foreign Minister Lavrov, and Prime Minister Mishustin. And this is an exclusive Donald Trump in the form of a Labubu doll. And my question is about international affairs. I just want to attract Mr. President's or Mr. Peskov's attention. And Mr. Peskov has a Labubu doll with his face on it. And there was a question about import substitution also. Let's give the floor to the Amur region. What are you going to ask President Putin? Hello, I'm from the city of Blagoveshchensk, Kirina Batin, Amur regional TV channel. We are here to invite President Putin to attend a unique international event organized just right on the ice of the borderline river of Amur. Blagoveshchensk is the only administrative capital situated on the border, and this is an invitation, yes, and we have submitted the symbols, the panda and the brown bear, as symbols of our region, and it's about the visa-free travel and transfer for the adjacent regions of Blagoveshchensk and the Chinese bordering region. So we invite the President to feel this sensation of being on the borderline between Russia and China. And I cannot skip this person, Yevgeny Podobny, the hero of Russia, the only media representative decorated with the Hero of Russia star. A round of applause. You always have a lot of questions. Do you have any today? Yes, of course. I do, Pavel. May I not disclose the entire thing, but I'll just say that my question is of relevance for hundreds of thousands of people across the country and in the frontline regions also. So I really want to raise this matter. So please raise your hand and do your best. So it has been a virtual tour. We have briefed everybody about our regional journalists and about our veterans. And the floor goes to Anton Korifeev. I'm showing you live for our channel. So the double live program, I'd say. So which time is that you are attending? The outcomes of the year, or the big press conference? You know, I've been remembering back in 2001, the first grand press conference for regional and international media was held, and this was a novel thing back then. So probably since 2001, it's been 22 times, quite a lot. Yes, I'm a record setter, and people want to have a pic with me. I'm a celebrity. Alexander Gamov from the Komsomolskaya Pravda newspaper. Alexander is waving to us. He's closer to you, Pavel. And we're impatient every time because there are new things every time and each time. So I've taken the center stage, and I'll be able to see President directly from the first row. It's a long-awaited event, and minutes are remaining before President appears. And it is a live program, and we have already started, and the entire country is following us. The interest is huge up and down the country. tens of millions of people are streaming us live, and we have received lots of serious questions and other types of questions too. For example, when the banknote with the Oreshnik missile on it will appear, is it easier for President to talk to allies or foes or to himself? And who is better, Messi or Ronaldo? There's a question from a children's editorial. And would you like your knowledge to be transferred to the digital format to be used by the AI? Also a question for President. And without a doubt, ladies and gentlemen, your questions will be the best. And here we have a young man with a placard saying, "I want to get married." And over there, colleagues have prompted me, how can President help you in getting married? And why are you so far from one another, you and that girl who wants to also to get married? You should sit next to one another. You should sit next to one another. Tell a few words about yourselves. The demography is a very important topic. Yes, this is what I just want to ask about, demography. And I actually have a girlfriend, and we got acquainted at school, and we've been together for 8 years. And I come from Ekaterinburg, from Paul's homeland, and I work for the 4th TV channel. And I hope this plate will help me. I was quick in getting married, you know. Dear friends, it's our pleasure to see you. Just in a few short minutes, President is coming, and we will start the outcomes of the year with Vladimir Putin. It is a combined hybrid format, combining the annual grand press conference and the call-in. Is a novel format for the entire world. In 2 years, we've been able to collect around 3 million questions and requests from our people, and we will alternate questions from our people and from mass media. Please raise your hands, as always. Be as succinct as possible when you ask your questions. The shorter your question is, the more colleagues will be able to have the floor. As always, the content of the phone-in, the press conference, is scrutinized, and afterwards a set of instructions by President of Russia is compiled. This is going to happen this time too, and the People's Front will work hard in the course of the year so that each message, each application from our people is analyzed and taken care of, and municipalities and regions and federal authorities will attend and handle that. So please convert your phones into the silent mode. Very soon, the head of state is coming. It's going to start shortly. Thank you, Mr. Peskov. I just want to recall a quote by President saying that each law becomes obsolete the moment it is written and enacted, and only direct contact with people helps us being up to date. So this is the biggest asset of this program, direct communication and the opportunity to feel the pulse of time. After calls in, new laws appeared regularly and amendments were introduced, and probably this will happen today too. Once again, People's Front has been of assistance, huge assistance, in processing all the information, all the inputs, as well as volunteers and veterans of the special operation. And when we started the collection of the questions, I just wondered, asking the head of People's Front, you received a huge array of questions. Will you send it down to the instances that shrugged off everybody with formal replies, or will you do it differently? And he said that acute issues will be on special control and supervision and under supervision. And also we have a virtual assistant called GigaChat, and here it comes President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. Please welcome. Please be seated. I'll remind you that we will receive the applications and questions until the end of the program. You can either use the phone number 8800 200 40 40, send an SMS or MMS to 04040, or use the social media of contacting the Klasniki, or use the website moscowputin.rf, or use the chatbot on Max Messenger, used for the first time, and this is a very, very popular channel today. Now we have more than 2.5 million questions, and we're about to begin asking President Putin questions. And just a couple of words, Ekaterina and I have sifted through tens of thousands of your questions.
From all across Russia, from abroad, and of course out of these 2 million questions there are messages from different people. Understandably, many of these topics are overlapping, and we've tried to systematize, to classify the questions, to make sure that we cover the topics that are of relevance to millions of people. And understandably, there's one topic that is of the greatest importance to everyone. There are many issues and questions on social policies, but in the forefront are the issues of peace and war. You've said on multiple occasions that we are okay with how the things are going at the battlefront, but is it going to be peace, or is it going to be continuation, given what Zelensky is saying? So far, we're not seeing the willingness, but let's remember what all of this started from. It was back with the coup d'etat in Ukraine back in 2014, as well as the deception about there being a possibility to address all of the issues via Minsk agreements. But afterwards, in 2022, when everything was on the verge, when the Kiev regime, the Ukrainian regime, basically unleashed a war in the southeast part of Ukraine, we said that we would have to recognize the unrecognized republics. It would be better if you leave these people in peace and let them leave without Russophobia, without coup d'etat. Just withdraw your troops from there. Back then, they didn't want to do that, and after Istanbul, at first, they basically initialed those drafts, and then they basically threw them in the bin. And this is what we're seeing right now. They're basically refusing to finish this conflict via peaceful means. That said, we are seeing things, and we know there are signals, including from the Kiev regime, indicating that they are willing to engage in some type of dialogue. The only thing, and I would like to say something that we've been saying for quite some time, we are willing to put an end to this conflict via peaceful means based on the principles that I outlined in July last year when I spoke at the Foreign Ministry of Russia. The root causes that brought about this conflict have to be addressed. Mr. President, the situation on the battlefront is changing day in, day out. We know that you follow everything almost in real time, talking to our heroes, to our soldiers, but the situation is changing on a daily basis. Our soldiers are getting ahead audaciously and steadily. As Commander-in-Chief, what's your assessment of the current state of affairs? I've just listened to the report by the head of the General Staff. On the whole, I can tell you that right after our troops expelled the adversary from the Kursk region, the initiative, the strategic initiative, to be more precise, is firmly in the hands of the Russian armed forces. What does it mean? It means that our forces are advancing along the whole line of contact. At some places, they are moving ahead faster, sometimes slower, but everywhere along the line of contact, the adversary is being pushed back. And most importantly, and we started with this, you said, and I said that there were proposals to the Kiev regime to withdraw their troops from those unrecognized, back then they were unrecognized republics, who didn't want to leave under the yoke of the Kiev nationalists. By then, the Kiev regime had been building fortified positions in the agglomeration of Slavyansk and Kramatorsk, Konstantinovka. This was the most fortified region. So let's start with what is currently unfolding over there. Just recently, the head of the General Staff, the head of the group of forces, as well as the local commanders, the head of the brigade that I received at my office, reported me on having taken Seversk, which is an important settlement, and from there it's possible to move closer to one of the most fortified regions, to part of this agglomeration, which is Slavyansk. A little to the south from there, our armed forces are active in the South Liman direction. The troops are in the city already. The battle is raging, and very soon it'll be taken. A huge percentages under our control, but the advancement is going to continue. I said that Konstantinovka is part of this agglomeration, and the battle is already there. More than 50% of Konstantinovka is under Russian control. I have no doubt whatsoever that this settlement is going to be taken as well. There was an important development, namely the taking of Krasnoarmeysk. Because from Krasnoarmeysk, you know, the competent level of the armed forces will have to make a decision on which direction to take, but this is a very good bridgehead to continue offensive operations. And to the south, northeast, there is the city of Dmitrov, which is also an important bridgehead, and it is completely encircled. I think around 50% of the city will have been taken by our forces by now. The adversary did not get an order or the command to lay down arms. They're trying to break the encirclement, moving in small groups. They're undertaking attempts to take back at least parts of Krasnoarmeysk, in vain so far. The adversary is sustaining significant losses and seeing no success. Another group of Russian armed forces, East Vostok Group, is making great headway across Zaporozhye region, liberating one settlement after another. As you know, currently the battle is taking place in Hulai-Polye. The city is divided by a river into two parts. The biggest is on the opposite part of the river. This barrier has been bridged, and the battle is raging inside the city, but an important part of the group of force of Vostok is moving even further, liberating one settlement after another in Zaporozhye region. Moreover, safety and security zones are being set up in Sumy region, the city of Volchansk, in Kharkov region, as is well known. Currently, several weeks ago, Kupiansk was taken by the Russian forces. So far, our forces are not moving, but they are in control. The thing is their most important task is to eliminate the group of the forces of the adversary on the left bank of Oskol River and to take another settlement, which is basically a hub, a transport hub, which is Kupiansk-Uzlovoy. There is a group of forces that is encircled there, 15 battalions, 3,500 soldiers who didn't get a command to withdraw either, and they have no chances whatsoever. They are heavily encircled by the Russian armed forces. And once it happens, once our units have completed their task, they will move further west. I'm confident that by the end of the year, we will have seen new successes by our armed forces, by our soldiers, or by our warriors at the line of contact. And what about Seversk? What is the current state of affairs? And why was it so difficult to take this settlement? You must have seen, you must have heard the briefing of the head of the general staff, as well as the head of the group of forces, the group of armies, the commander, as well as the head of the brigade that is engaged in hostilities there. I asked him, what's your current take on the situation in Seversk? Are you firmly in control? He said, Mr. President, we are moving even further west. 1.5, 2 kilometers. My brigade has already made that movement in the west, and this movement is continuing. You probably remember there was this briefing on Seversk, and we had a report of the assault group from the spot, from Seversk. If you remember, at the end, I asked them to change their position as soon as possible once the report was over. And I think it was yesterday, because time is flying by. We had a meeting at the Ministry of Defense, and once the collegium was over, there was an award ceremony for our warriors. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Yeah, there was an award ceremony for those who participated in the liberation of Seversk, and once that was over, I went back to the Kremlin, to my office, and I asked the head of the assault group to come by, see me, because I wanted to talk to him about the current agenda. I do that from time to time when an opportunity presents itself. And we also had a meeting on the preparations for today's event, and he came straight to the room of the Security Council, and I asked him to say a couple of words so that every colleague can hear what's the current state of affairs in Seversk, how it happened, and he started recounting, just a couple of words, very briefly. And once he went away, colleagues asked whether we could invite him to the direct line. I said, well, you can ask him, but his leave is not that long, so, we phoned him, and he's here. He agreed. Naran Alexeyevich. There he is. Naran, is that correct? Yes, please, be seated. Take your seat, yeah. Am I correct? Is this how this happened? Yes. If you've got any questions about what is happening in Seversk and how the liberation took place, you can ask him directly. I think it's going to be better. Let's give a round of applause to a hero of Russia. Let's welcome him. Naran Alexeyevich We saw you during that TV bridge, but we don't know you personally. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? How long have you been participating in the special military operation? Where did you start? I'm from Kalmykia. I started from Solidar. First, I was just an soldier, and now I'm head of the sword unit. Well, he started just as a driver, and right now he's a head of an assault unit, and more than 80 people are under his command. And he's also a hero of the Russian Federation. Don't be modest. Naran Alexeyevich, colleagues, journalists, must have seen this this meeting between President and yourself and the colleagues. The communication was spotty at best because of the signal. Right now, we've got more time, and could you tell us a little bit about how Siversk was liberated? We would very much like to learn how it happened. Of course, share what you can share, what your soldiers did. I can repeat my question. I said when he came to the room of the Security Council, what was the most difficult? Well, the most difficult thing was to get to Seversk in secret because, you know, these were open fields. There were no natural shelters. That's why a decision had been made to move in small groups clandestinely, and we managed to perform this task. We managed to accumulate forces right under the nose of the adversary, and once the accumulation happened, we waited for the command to start assault. There were many civilians that were staying in Seversk. What was the attitude of the armed forces of Ukraine to civilians? For quite some time, the civilians had been living, how shall I put it? Well, yes, they've been living in fear under the pressure of the adversary, and once we managed to liberate our zone, that was our responsibility. We started to talk to the civilians, and they told us that the Ukrainian armed forces had been behaving just like nationalists, shooting those who didn't want to evacuate with them. So civilians didn't have any arms, and they were shot out because they were willing to stay in the city just for this simple fact. And once our armed forces arrived there, how were you welcomed? When we came, people were in a very difficult state, both physically and morally, and when they saw us, they were very happy. They had been listening in secret to Russian radio, waiting for us to arrive, and they were very happy. Naran Alexeyevich, you said that when the armed forces of Ukraine were withdrawing, they were shooting the civilians. And back then you said that they were shooting down young people, yes, especially young people under 30, under 40. They were simply taken away without judge and summarily shot down without exception. What's your current take on what's happening in this part of the front line? On the whole, it's stable. As I reported to Mr. President, we moved even further beyond Seversk. Naran Alexeyevich, when we look at you, when we listen to you, we want to repeat once again that our warriors are true warriors, true men. And what's the morale of your guys, of your soldiers, those who are under your command? We are working conscientiously and steadily, pursuing the tasks set before us by the Commander-in-Chief, and the goals of the Special Military Operations will be accomplished. Naran Alexeyevich, how many people are there under your command, and what are the losses that you've sustained? In my assault group, I've got 157 people, and when Seversk was being liberated, 24 groups had been employed to the total number of 84 people. There were minimum losses because we were moving in small groups. 4 men were lost out of 84. those 84 had been participating in the assault itself. Let's thank the hero of Russia once again. Now that we've listened to all of that, I would like to ask you, just a week ago, Zelensky allegedly made a video next to the there's a column next to Kupiansk. Many thought it was a fake video. Is that a fake? How Zelensky decided to publish that at such an important, crucial moment? Well, I'm not following that, but, you know, following what he's doing. But he's an artist and a talented one to boot, so there's nothing surprising about that. You know, they're saying that this obelisk looks completely different from what it used to. But be that as it may, this obelisk is 1 kilometer or so from the city. Well, why stay at the threshold? Do come in. If Kupiansk is under their control, why not go in the city itself? And you know, there were some women bloggers. They managed to get by. Luckily, nothing happened to them because, you know, the sky is swarming like with flies, but not with flies, with UAVs, and there are UAVs both from the Ukrainian side, from the Russian side. It's impossible to approach that settlement so easily. A time will come once our soldiers have completed the elimination of the group of forces of Ukraine that is encircled in the east part, and then they will turn and go westward.
It will be very soon. This is just the question of time, if there are no other problems. As for other fake stuff or attempts or at any cost to return the lost positions as it is done now, and I would like to underline that it is done at any cost. The adversary has no success. The problem is that as a result of active and effective actions of our armed forces, the adversary has suffered really serious losses of strategic reserves, and they have almost nothing left. This is a meaningful component, and this should give an impetus to the Kiev regime to solve all the disputes and to end this conflict peacefully. They almost have no reserves. I think that everyone who's watching us and everyone here in the whole war is a grave burden for the economy. Well, as you said, the European baby pigs continue doing everything to destroy Russian economy. Well, in such harsh conditions, can we even think about further economic growth? Somewhere we keep growing in some sectors, but somewhere there is no economic growth. What are these sectors? Well, as usually, I have brought a table with me. It's like that. These are open data. What happened in our economy throughout the previous year? The GDP growth was 1%. But if we take 3 previous years, this is also a correct indicator. The common growth was 9.7%. At the same time, the EU growth was 3.1%. As for the 1% growth this year, these were conscious actions of the government and the central bank and the whole government of our country regarding the targeting inflation. We need to point out that in general, we managed to solve this task. We had a goal to decrease the inflation up to 6%, but by the end of the year, it will be less than 6%, 5.7, 5.8%. But the decrease of the economic growth rate, this is the cost of preserving the quality of the economy, of the macroeconomic indicators. Let's go forward. The industrial production increased by 1%. Manufacturing industry increased 3.1%. As for the agricultural produce, it increased 3.3%. An important question is housing construction. Millions of square kilometers were constructed. Last year, it was 107.8. This year, the indicator is lower, but it is also good, 103, 105 square kilometers. Million of square meters. We manage to preserve a very good indicator of real salaries. They're not as high as last year, but still, I think the indicator is very good. The real salaries, without inflation, is going to be 4.5%. Unfortunately, we must be honest, throughout this period of time, the growth of labor productivity is going to be very modest, 1.1%. And we need to change that, of course, in order to increase labor productivity. As for unemployment level, last year I said it was record low historically. It was 2.5%. This year it is even lower, 2.2%. In general, these are very good indicators. International reserves of the central bank are growing. I have just spoken to the governor of the central bank, like just several days ago, $741.5 billion US. As for the budget deficit, budget of the federal budget, 2.6%. Next year, we think that it's going to be 1.6%. As for the 3 years period, it should be around 1.5%. This is a very good indicator regarding our state debt. It's one of the lowest among the developed companies. We have we have spoken with our colleagues. It is 7.7%, and in the next 3 years, it will not be more than 20%. Well, these are the indicators. What is more important, the principal thing is that we have to thank the government for the hard work they have implemented. They managed to balance the budget. The quality of this balancing is of the level of 2021. This is a very important indicator of stability of the economy and financial system of our country. It means that we will be able to fully implement the issues regarding the social obligations to the population, also solve development issues regarding national projects. We will reach technological development goals, as well as, without any doubt, we will ensure the necessities of the armed forces. And all of this combined speaks about the stability of the economy and financial system, which is absolutely under the control of the government and the central bank. Well, the journalists would like also to ask their question. Our format is combined. This is a direct line in the big press conference. So let us start, give the floor to the journalists. Let's start with the center, Siberia. Let's start with Siberia, please. Hello, Mr. Putin. Novosibirsk, Ivan Dvaynichnikov, Gorodskaya Volna Radio. Everyone knows that Novosibirsk is famous. and the same as city. And in the recent years, with your support, Siberian Circle photon source was started to be constructed. This is a unique plant, a unique facility, not only for our country, but for the whole world. It will allow us to implement new investigations. Despite sanctions, despite harsh economic conditions, we managed to create fully Russian production. We need to launch it. We are going to launch it next year. The question is it really possible, and what we need to do for the young scientists to work there? Next year we're going to launch it, and we are waiting for you at the opening ceremony. Thank you for reminding about this. This is good news, which is very good for everyone participating in the process. This topic appeared during the Council on Science at the auspices of the President of Russia, which was in 2018. The colleagues from the Siberian Institute of Science, the Institute of Nuclear Physics, spoke about the necessity of creating such accelerator. Truly, we had some problems, slowdowns because of sanctions, but we managed to complete this work. This is great, and I would like to thank everyone who had to do anything with this project, and I would like to congratulate you on that. This is truly a success. Well, the same thing goes for the Kurchatov Institute here in Moscow, but this is the second stage facility. A lot has to be changed. We are planning to do that. At the same time, we're going to create the same facility in Vladivostok and in other cities as well. We are going to work on that. As for your facility, SCIF, this is a great success because it gives an opportunity not only to have investigation of a fundamental nature, but also of an applied nature. This is truly important because this will give an opportunity to work in the sphere of pharmaceuticals and new materials, and so on and so forth. But how to keep young experts? We have a whole system that is functioning, but the main thing is that we need to create laboratories, because true scientists are truly talented ones and dedicated ones, and they also, but social aspects are also very important. The salaries, the conditions for living there, and all of this is what we're going to work on. In the future, this is one of our goals. We have a grant system for this and mega grants. We know the scientists that are called mega granters. These are the scientists receiving such mega grants. We have raised this issue at one of the meetings with them. So we need to create conditions so that young experts would keep working there. We need to create a horizon for them to be seen, the horizon of investigation, not for 2-3 years, but for 5 years or more. And we have already done this, and this allows us to prevent the outflow of stuff. Many people come back. I have personally spoken to such scientists. These are young experts that used to work abroad, but they come back to Russia, to the native land. And our so-called Western colleagues help us very much in this. Why they come back? First of all, there are great laboratories, great opportunities, but one of the main causes is that they are really concerned about their kids, because it is impossible to send kids to the schools in those countries. Well, we have protection of traditional values on the agenda. And together with the other conditions, they decide to come back to Russia. And there are more and more such people. Well, we'll keep working on all of these tracks. I'll try to come to visit. Let's give more opportunities, a couple of opportunities to the journalists. Please don't shout. Well, I have the patriarch of the Kremlin pool, Alexander Gamov, please. Alexander, if you have a question, you haven't raised your hand. Yes, please. Thank you very much. Alexander Gamov, radio and newspaper Komsomolskaya Pravda. Mr. Putin, this year Komsomolskaya Pravda celebrates 100 years since the publication of the first newspaper. We have received an order of valiant labors. Thank you for this high praise. We would like to thank you. I would like to remind that the first direct line was hosted by us. But, well, I have a question from our newspaper. I would like to know how now is developing or implementing the program of the Time of Heroes. You were the initiator of this program. Do you follow this project? How people participating in this program cope with their work? Those people who are now working as the leaders of regions, how justified is this program, and how long we're going to have this program? What other postings we're going to see? Thank you. You know, first of all, let's remember the participants of the Great Patriotic War. Those who were fighting in the fronts of the Great Patriotic War came back. They reached great results in culture, in science and education. When I went to university, I had teachers who were participating in the Great Patriotic War. We respected them greatly. There was those who were gravely injured. I had a teacher who didn't have a leg and he had a prosthesis, but he was an excellent expert in his sphere. We all remember him with gratitude. And we remember the knowledge that he gave us. Let's remember Mr. Nikulin. And there are so many scientists who excelled in their spheres and truly truly were important for the development of our country. And the participants of the special military operation. Let's take Narina Alexeyevich. I couldn't recognize him really because the hall is very big. But he was given a mic, and there is a camera, people knowing what they're doing. But when he entered the Security Council in Kremlin, he spoke there, and everyone was looking at him very carefully. There is great potential that the guys from the special military operation have. But this is one thing to fight, and there is other thing to be a leader of a team or be a head of a big company or a region or a ministry. You need a talent for that. Of course, there are hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the special military operation zone. Not everyone wants to have such a career, civil career, but those who want and those who have potential, who have education, experience, are ready to receive it. It means that the government must do everything to give such opportunities to these people that are truly ready to fight for the interests of their own country. I've already explained how this idea appeared. I met young people, students. I looked at them. I looked at how they were communicating their ideas. What were their goals? What are the promising goals for the country, by their opinion? So when I listened to them, I had this idea. It's important to give opportunity to such people, such young people, to stimulate them. Of course, we need to prepare them, to train them, without any doubt. That is why we started this program. I thank the heads of the regions of the Russian Federation for promoting this program regionally. And it is truly functioning, and I'm truly glad for the people who participated in the first stage and the second stage. Some of them have become governors, vice ministers. They work in our biggest companies. Several people work in the presidential administration, and they are truly successful. Of course, there are some difficulties. Some of them may try to work in some other sphere, but the program itself is functioning successfully. Mr. Putin, colleagues, there is a very important piece of news from Brussels. There was the failure, it was a real failure to take their assets. They cannot steal them, but they're trying, but still they cannot do this. Well, stealing is not really correct definition for that. Stealing, this is when someone is doing it secretly, and they are doing it openly. This is a robbery. This is a robbery. Why they fail to do this? Why they fail to implement this robbery? Because the consequences can be really harsh for the robbers. Why is that? It's really hard to do that, because they declare that they're not going to rob it, to take it. The idea is to make a credit using our assets. But you cannot just give out a loan. This will make consequences for the budget of a country, and it increases the budget debt of every country. If someone gives a loan, even secured by our foreign assets, it must be reflected in the budget of a country that does it.
For example, in France, the public debt is 120%, and ours is at 17%. And our budget deficit is 2.6%. Next year is going to be 1.6%. In France, it is 6% per annum. So, and now they will assume additional liabilities, and it'll be quite hard to pass such a budget. And all these are the reasons for the difficulty of taking decisions related to the robbery of someone else's assets, but there will be graver consequences for those who might endeavor that. This will not be a blow to their image, but this will subvert all the confidence with the euro area. Actually, very many countries store their foreign reserves in the eurozone. Many of those having spare money, like the oil-producing countries, if they have a look at what might be happening, they will have doubts, and they already have doubts and concerns. But what if this happens? You know, well begun, it can be further replicated, they might think. Now, some people dislike the conduct of the special military operation and the fight against neo-Nazism in Ukraine. And next, someone might not like the fight, the struggle with the LGBT movement. And the Muslim countries have stringent laws to this respect, and this might be another pretext for the alleged expropriation of sovereign assets. Why not? And they might find other pretexts. So that will entail image-related losses and direct financial monetary losses related to the contemporary financial architecture. And the main thing is, no matter what they steal, sooner or later they'll have to give it back. And most importantly, we will go to courts to protect our interests. We will do our utmost to find a jurisdiction that will be independent from the political context. Let's come to the room and ask questions from the hall. The road of life, I see the sign. Good day, Vladimir Vladimirovich. I'm from the Common Forum, the Republic of Komi media outlet, And you know that a big chunk of the Republic of Komi and the Nenets Autonomous District are cut off from the mainland, as there is no direct automobile transportation and connection. So there's a dead end of the automobile road, but at the same time, the Syrtevkar, Uhtau, Sinsk, Mar trunk road spanning more than 600 kilometers going through our republic, and that provides for all the year-round procurement for the north and safe traffic for the northern residents. But the bulk of that segment, the biggest part of this segment is in a very deplorable state, and we lack regional funds to repair this road. And Komi has very few federal roads, unlike other regions of Russia. So the proposal, whether this road of life, the only trunk way for the north, can be transferred to the federal property, so that the safe and secure communication with the north is safeguarded. And using this opportunity, I'd like to invite you to the Republic of Komi. In the 2029, the city of Uhtau will mark 100th anniversary. Today, it's the biggest oil and gas center in the north of Russia. And shortly, Syrtevkar will mark 250 years, thanks to your decree. And if you are able to come to the festivities, we will be so grateful. It's going to be a historic and landmark visit for us. Well, thank you for the invitation. With respect to the road, I'm aware of this problem. Indeed, transferring all the segments of that federal trunk road to the federal level, as there is a task of raising all federal trunk roads to certain quality standards, and this is almost complete. And now we are tackling the regional roads quality, but it can be broken down into several sub-issues: the northern procurement and the safety, traffic and road safety. So I cannot promise that we're going to start right away tomorrow, but I'll talk to the government, and we'll find a way to respond and react. But thank you for the invitation. Mr. President, yes. So it's a combined format, it's a hybrid format, so we will we'll receive questions from different sources. Channel 1, the third row, this is our front correspondent. I'm Ilya Super, war correspondent from Channel 1. I have 3 questions, hope to be succinct. First is from the battlefield drone operators. All of them thank you for the big number of the assault drones. Some of them can stop columns like Prince Vandal of Nizhny Novgorod, but we actually lack hexacopters, the Baba Yaga type. They are used actively in droves by Ukrainians, and we need those to this type too, because the sky is dominated by the drones, and it's even used to carry a bottle of water. So the guys are agog to receive those. And the second question is from the operators. And one of the guys in the trenches told me a baby will be born shortly in my family. Will you miss the front line? I asked him. Yes, I will. And he will miss the control of the UAVs, actually. So we have lots of UAV operators, and their number is increasing, and they also want to continue doing that in peaceful life. As being civilians. Will that come in handy? Will their experience and expertise come in handy? And the final question is from me. We work with a brigade of veterans who are knowledgeable for their underground operations, subterranean subway operations, Avdiivka and Dzержinsk and others. But this brigade, despite all the merits, is called like a voluntary group in many reports of the Defense Ministry. If I may, will you please assign this brigade the name of Guards Brigade? Brigade of Guards. The honorary name. Thank you. I'll start with your final point. The Brigade of Veterans deserves the highest assessments, and they are heroes. But it's not only about risking lives and going through a tube. The point is that they are meticulous and hair-splitting and responsible in preparing each operation of theirs. And a lot of preparations were done with all the driveways and procurement and exit points and enter points. These are heroes, no doubt. And this brigade deserves the highest assessments, and it should be granted the name of a Guards Brigade. I agree with you. Secondly, the point that you started with, that about control of drones. We are lacking heavy UAVs, and this is what the defense ministry and the defense industry are getting to grips with, and the defense minister personally has been looking into the matter, and he has done a lot, and thanks to him, to a large extent, the situation with drones has considerably improved, and the guys on the contact line now feel that, and will keep supporting our contemporary inventors with a system of grants and support measures. And I'd like to thank our caring people and entrepreneurs. They have collected 83 billion rubles of donations, and that was spent on different things, but to a large extent on drones. I must say directly and frankly, one shouldn't shy that. We have become leaders. We still lack those heavy drones like Baba Yaga type, but with respect to the number of drones, we are ahead of our adversary on all the segments of the front line. This is an obvious fact, a hard fact. Now, with respect to the civil life application, in order to confirm this leadership, well, this can be confirmed actually only if those items used in fighting will be applied in civilian, in peaceful life, and it will also be used in. There will be the dual use of these items to improve the combat efficiency of our country, and all the delivery of mail and medicines and food will be conducted with the help of UAVs, like the airplane type or small copters, air-based ones. I'm speaking about the UAVs in general, airborne and seaborne, and we are making big headway in this respect, and this will have the support of the government in future. Now, with respect to the fighters on the front line that want to continue doing what they have been doing, well, this is a peculiar thing, because the point is that we continue a good rate of manning, and now we have a lot of volunteers that want to volunteer to the front, conclude contracts to join the army, and they volunteer to defend their motherland and the interests of our people. We just mentioned how the Ukrainian military treat the civilians, and a person told me, when we saw what they did to civilians. We just are agog. We're impatient to move on and finish off this viper. They execute old people, elderly, and they use helicopters to do that, to target civilians, actually. He might be shy because it's the first time that he ends up in such an audience. And more than 406 or 10,000 people have enrolled, concluding a contract. And the number of people who want to do service in this new branch of the army, the unmanned aerial systems branch, is so big that the defense ministry has to open a call for that. And there are students, young ones, who take an academic leave to sign a contract and join the army, and they participate. They are eager to participate in this competition, and they want to participate as drone operators. So I can understand the person that you spoke to, but actually, even those who come on leave, come home on leave, they continue participating in the fighting because the remote technology allows that. And to follow up on the fighters topic, you said, Mr. President, that it's not a trendy phenomenon, but it's the obligation of the government. So, and we looked through a lot of applications. Paul and I looked through a lot of applications, and GigaChat confirms that this year the number of applications from the fighters and their families is much lower than in the previous year or the penultimate year. So work is underway to assist them, to help them. Still some problems remaining related to delays and the search for the missing. Still a lot is done just in a matter of days. For example, Alexei Gushin from the Lov region wrote to us he was gravely wounded 2 years ago, and he was unable to receive a payout of 3 million because not all the documents were available. And finally, the amount was accrued, and one of these days he's to receive the full amount. And the mother of a fallen hero, Lyudmila Orlova from Beloretsk, said that her son lost his life last year and was posthumously decorated with a medal, but she could not receive this medal. And finally, the volunteers looked into the matter, and now the mother has received her son's posthumous decoration. And she tried to get it for a year, and only after caring, attentive, and thoughtful people attended to that, this was resolved. And just yesterday or the day before yesterday, you said at the Defense Ministry College that there is still room for advancement. And now we'll have a look at a video from Kristina from Novosibirsk. Good afternoon. My name is Grebe Kristina. I'm a widow of a fallen serviceman. We live in the city of Novosibirsk, and there are 2 kids left of 4 and 6 years of age. So the question is, currently I would not receive the pension of a fallen serviceman and other benefits. My husband lost his life in January 2024. On the 10th of December that year, I received the death certificate. And, a year passed since then, and we're yet lacking this pension. Can the timeline for consideration of these applications be expedited so that the pension on the grounds of a loss of the breadwinner is allotted on time, should be allotted on time. Christina, first of all, I want to apologize to you for this huge delay of the relevant services, on the part of the relevant services, and in your case it's going to be resolved quickly, but the problem is in existence, and not long ago I had a meeting with Madam Civilova Anna, who reported me on the work of the Fund of Fatherland Defenders, and she's Deputy Defense Minister now, and she has told me that still the proper interaction between the Defense Ministry and the welfare unit of the government is not properly established, and there is a lot of red tape, and documents are lost while being transferred from one agency to another, and decisions are delayed and postponed, but we will work on that to expedite the thing. I will definitely keep track of that personally. I'll look into this issue. We should be swifter and quicker so that rid people of additional difficulties, like in your case when they have 2 kids left after the tragedy. But there is also another issue pending, which is obvious from some of the questions received via various channels, and Mr. Peskov has handed me a file full of such questions and applications, the search for the missing servicemen, and in the case of Christina, I hope the problem she's faced with is going to be resolved quite quickly without any procrastination.
Now, as for the search for missing in action, this is a topic of particular relevance, and I have to tell you that the Ministry of Defense has taken several steps with a view to addressing this problem. To be more precise, a coordinated center has been set up, which is charged with searching for the servicemen missing in action. Special units have been established in relevant units, and groups, a special registry has been set up as well. And if we look at the beginning of the year and at how things stand today, we'll see that the number of those who were thought to be missing in action has decreased by 50% as compared to the beginning of the year, so there is a 3-time difference. Of course, this work has to continue and it has to be improved. Rest assured, we'll do everything to make sure that the losses are brought down to a minimum. Mr. President, the issue of MIIs is very important. I know that even among our colleagues, journalists, there are family, close friends who are participating in the SMO and who were considered to be MIIs. I think everyone will support you if we'll ask you to give an instruction to make sure that there is a special control, special surveillance of the issues from family. We have to remember about the issue of those who are missing in action and those who have been taken prisoner. Well, the instructions are there, and we're working together with the Ministry of Defense. Let's work with the audience. A couple of questions, several questions from the room, from the audience. Third row of this section, I think the Mir TV company. Yes, the lady in red. Thank you, Mr. Peskov. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Elena Dashkova, Mir TV channel. The issue of phone fraudsters is very acute. What about the measures taken by the government? Have they worked? Do you have any statistics on how we've managed to bring down a number of citizens who've been defrauded by these fraudsters. Yes, we've got some statistics. These measures have worked, they've yielded some results, and I think a lot has and should be done to address this issue. The number of such crimes has decreased by 7%, as the Ministry of the Interior has briefed me, and the losses have decreased by 33%. On the whole, there are some positive results, but I would like to address the citizens of the country. Fraud is still very much an issue, and the more sophisticated our devices are getting, the more sophisticated our life is becoming. Fraudsters are becoming increasingly sophisticated in their turn in the ways they use to defraud the citizens and to swindle them and take their money. So whoever talks to you, whoever is calling you, and given the AI capabilities, if someone starts talking to you about money, about property, just put down the phone. Just put down the phone right away. If someone is talking to you about property or money, not a single word. If banks, or there's someone personally, if you want to address an issue, just go in person, see someone from the bank. I would like to ask you not to talk about money or property on the phone. More questions from the room. I would like to ask the journalists to be as succinct as possible. Yes, we see a young man here, young gentleman, Children's Editorial Office. Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Maxim Zakharov. I'm with a Children's Editorial Office. Recently, you said that sometimes you drive a car across Moscow streets incognito, and when you speak at meetings or right now, you are in possession of a treasure trove of information. I would like to ask you how you get this information about what people really need. Well, I didn't say that exactly like that I drive incognito, that I drive myself. I'm just saying that sometimes I drive without the accompanying police cars and all that. And, these voyages, as it were, are useful because from the car window, it's very interesting to look not just at the road I usually take to get from my residence to the Kremlin and vice versa. It's very interesting to look at different neighborhoods of Moscow. It's interesting and curious to see what's happening around. As far as verified information I get is concerned, I think the most important thing that provides me with that information, well, this is an event like this. Just imagine 2.5 million people have sent their messages and questions to the direct line. Of course, it's impossible to cover all of that and process all of that in the course of these several hours we've got. But, 2.5 million messages. There are about issues that people hold dear to their heart. This will be processed by AI for a year. This information will be processed by my loyal assistants from the Popular Front. This is the front. This is the source of information about what people really need and what they're interested in. And of course, I get information from special services as well as from law enforcement agencies. And I'm trying to use that information not just in an aggregate form to personalize, but also I'd like to see the original documents, and I'd like to meet people, personally talk to them when I have work and visits across the country. It's very important to talk directly to people because it gives a lease of fresh life to what we're doing. You see the needs of the people, and of course, polls by social studies agencies. Of course, people take these polls differently, but mostly these are polls of a professional nature. And of course, sometimes people are not happy with average numbers, with mean numbers, because these figures have nothing to do with what people are facing in real life. But these average data are important because they give us an understanding of what is happening in general across the country. So this is a variety of sources which provide me with a fairly objective picture of what is happening in the country. A couple of more questions from the audience. Yakutia, yes, please. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Oleg Kolosov, Saka TV. We represent the coldest place in the world. Right now, the temperature is minus 50 degrees centigrade, The climate is inclement, and in that inclement climate, we highly cherish warmth and unity. 2026 is a year of unity of Russian nations and peoples, and we're all aware that the special military operation is bringing unity. And as a military correspondent, I know that our servicemen are fighting shoulder to shoulder, regardless of their religion or ethnic belonging, and they have this chevron, this shoulder patch, God with us, we're Russian. So what kind of patch would you choose for this year of unity? And next year, we're opening a unique center of epos and arts, and also an arts school that is being built at your instruction. We'd like to take this opportunity to invite you. Yakutia is also known for its cinema, and right now a film is being made about a hero of Russia. So we will look forward to getting your support for this movie, as well as for both for making the movie and also what kind of measures will be taken to support different Russian peoples and nations. We pursue a deliberate policy of supporting different languages and cultures and arts of different peoples living in the Russian Federation. We're doing that via school, via media, via literature. You've mentioned several avenues in Yakutia, and the people of Yakutia are very talented. It's no coincidence that a music school is being built there. I was once visited that, and it's developing, young people, young children from all across different settlements and towns and cities get together, and they engage in creativity. Cinematography has taken off in Yakutia as well. Yakutia is developing very fast. Moreover, Yakutia is also providing us with servicemen which are unparalleled across the world, I suppose. And you've mentioned this film, this movie. We will certainly do everything to support that film once it's released, and before, in the run-up to its release. And as far as this year of unity of Russian peoples is concerned, I think this is the right thing to do, especially amid the special military operation, because when a country is faced with such trials and tribulations, it rallies together. And as you aptly mentioned, people, when they are under fire, don't care what religion they profess, what ethnic group they belong to. There's a joke in such situations, if there is a God, and I do not doubt there is a God. But, people are divided in different churches, but that may be very well may be so, but we all share common values. All peoples of the Russian Federation. And in the course of the special military operation, that is something that is getting increasingly to the forefront. We can see that. It's apparent and evident. We see that very well. You know, I just remembered, we have just spoken. The reports on the taking of the city of Sever. You remember I had a commander of one of the brigades in my office during that report. Once the reports were over, the video link was shut down, and I started to talk about the zone he was responsible for at the front line. We spoke about some daily matters, and all of a sudden he tells me, you know, well, I don't feel comfortable because I'm here, whereas my comrade, head of the very same brigade that is fighting shoulder to shoulder, he is back there at the front line. You and I, we're talking about addressing some daily needs, whereas he is fighting, but he's just as good as I am. And I tell him, who is he? And he said, he's from Dagestan. He's from a small ethnic group in Dagestan. He's a genuine warrior, a Russian patriot, as well as a brilliant commander. And I said, you know, it's impossible for everyone to be here. You are here because that the commander of the group of armies has decided, but someone needs to stay at the front line. But I say, let's try to give him a call. I took up the phone, and via military connection, we managed to find that second commander of the brigade. He had spoken about, he was at the command point on site. We spoke, and then I passed the phone to the commander of the brigade, who was with me in the office. And you know what's interesting? Among men, there's this cool, you know, when they call one another. But, you know, when real officer says that, it's really something special. He says, hi, brother. Yes, men do call that one another, but, you know, when real military commanders say that, this is testimony to the unity of the peoples, nations of the Russian Federation, who will do everything in our power to strengthen this process and to push it forward. Thank you. Another question from the audience before we get back to our moderators. First row, the blue jacket. Yes, please. Introduce yourself. Vladimir Sarahukov, good afternoon. RBC Radio next year ushers in many changes in taxation with a view to mobilizing budget revenue. What's the financial effect you're expecting, and will you relax these restrictions and tightenings once the situation gets better? Yes, this is a very acute issue. We've been discussing it at the government and also at the president's office. And as I said, the most honest way out is an increase of the VAT. Is that what you're asking about? Well, the goals, the objectives are very simple. Our task is to secure a well-balanced budget. On the whole, we've managed to accomplish that task. I've spoken about that to a certain degree thanks to this decision we've taken. As far as that is concerned, there is a number of issues to be addressed. The government needs to pay attention to that, and we spoke about that on multiple occasions. When the tax burden goes up, a temptation arises to avoid paying that tax. In the past, this task was very much widespread. Right now, it's becoming increasingly relevant. We need to dismantle the shadow economy and make sure no one is trying to hide their income from tax. And when taxes go up, we have to make sure that this does not stay on paper. It has to translate into real increases for the budget revenues. I take your hint. Is that going to be forever? No, certainly not. The end goal is to decrease the tax burden in the future, and the government assumes that this is where we're going in the end, and this is what I'm looking forward to. There is a surge of issues from self-employed, from individual entrepreneurs, because there are millions of those in Russia, and changes to taxation are a source of concern for many. We have a question from Denis Maximo from Lubertsy. Let's give him a call via video link. Denis Vladimirovich, if you can hear us, please ask your question. You know, when the prices on fish will be regulated by the government, and when will those be accessible, affordable to the population? You know, price regulation, it's very dangerous, because once we start doing that, the goods will start disappearing from the shelves. In a market economy, this is the result you get very often. Yes, there are certain spheres where regulation is required, is needed. As far as essential medicines are concerned, there is a certain ceiling you cannot go beyond. But if these are regular goods, you know, it's tricky regulating the price on those goods. But you are correct in that fish on the table of Russian citizens is missing. There are certain norms, and so far we are lagging behind those norms. But we have to go a different way about that. We need to improve the logistics. We have to make sure that the fish produced from the Russian Middle East can get as affordably as possible on the table of consumers in the European part of Russia. Transport capabilities have to be enhanced. We also have to address that via taxation. We have to create an environment to make sure that we continue building new fishing vessels. There are many issues that have to be addressed and that have to bring about the result we desire.
Please, if you hear us, ask a question. Hello, Mr. Putin. Hello. My name is Maximov Denis Vladimirovich from Liberty district, Kraskova. We have a family business. It's a bakery. For 8 years, we have a very convenient patent system for taxation. Since the new year, we'll have to pay an income tax and we'll have to pay the VAT. That is why we need an accountant, and this will be additional costs for us. We understand that our country is in a difficult situation. We understand that the increase of taxation is necessary, but I think it would be more useful for the state and for us individual entrepreneurs to increase our patents 2, 3, 5 times. It would depend on the volume of our produce. Well, the situation is difficult. We are not optimistic about the future. Some enterprises will close, some will go into the shadow economy. What can be done about the legislation? Well, this is your bakery behind you. Yes, it is. Mashinka, was it called in honor of someone? This is my eldest daughter. What are you baking there? Is it delicious? Well, I hope so. I hope so. Well, Denis Vladimirovich, regarding the essence of your question, first of all, there was a form of benefits for the small enterprises, what was registered by the government, what was done by the government. Especially it regards the trade business and the individual entrepreneurship, small enterprises. The process has started. They mean that we use these instruments, these forms of business for uncontrolled input of uncontrolled black input. That is the problem. It doesn't mean that we should create problems for the production business. I'll pay attention to that, and I'll make the government pay attention to that and the relevant governmental structures. As for the accounting, please do pay attention to the fact that it will not be necessarily compulsory to spend additional money for accounting. Big financial institutions provide different services, banking and accounting services. You could ask, for instance, a Sberbank, they can help you with that. And this will not bring additional costs for your business. It will not bring any additional financial burden for you. But you are right that the production business with the transfer to the new taxation should not suffer. And I promise you that the government is going to face this issue. But anyway, I wish you success. Success to your Mashinka, to your daughter, and to your business that has such a beautiful name. Well, maybe you can send us something delicious. With pleasure. On my side, I will work with the government regarding the support of your business and other businesses alike. Thank you. By the way, an important piece of news, the central bank reduced the key interest rate down to 16%. So we are moving forward. You know, the central bank is always under pressure. There are many disputes about the key interest rate. The difference between the inflation rate, by the end of the year, it will be less than 6%, 5.7, 5.8, maybe 5.6, and the key interest rate is at the level of 16%. The expert expected a possible decrease by 1%, but by the law, the Bank of Russia is independent. And I try not to interfere into the decisions that they're making. I try to make everything so that they were not influenced from other institutions. But the Bank of Russia does everything necessary, and they're very responsible in their work. In the end of the last year and the beginning of this year, we spoke to the governor of the central government, to the economic bloc of the government. We said that it is necessary to target the inflation and to make the necessary decisions so that the macroeconomy of Russia would be healthy, would be solid, so that the economy of the country had a solid foundation. The difference between the real inflation and the key interest rate is one of the lines of criticisms against the central bank. What is the problem? In reality, there are many problems. One of them is that, as I have already said, I have mentioned it. If not, I will say it now. One of the problems of today is the reduction of the investment activity. During the first 3 quarters of this year, minus 3.1%. But the Bank of Russia registers a little decrease. But the activity, serious continuity, continues in the credit sphere. The number of credits that is being provided is almost not reducing, not significantly. This is the merit of the central bank. That is why it is necessary to be really careful and cautious, so not to avoid the surge of inflation. So it would not be necessary to take any steps backwards. So the worst thing are the fluctuations, and the Bank of Russia strives to reach stability in this sphere, which is of paramount importance, and we have to agree with that. Well, the decrease of 0.5% or more, well, I'm not going to give any evaluations at the expert level. There are really good experts that will give their evaluations. But the reaction of the real economy sector, well, will be very well expected. Well, I know what it could be. According to the official data, official inflation is one thing, but the real inflation is different. We receive many questions about this. We ourselves go to shops and we see how expensive everything is. Well, the average inflation is around 6%. Everything is getting more expensive and prices are growing very fast. Well, Maxim Chubayev from Samara region asks why everything is so expensive. Even poultry increased. The price for poultry increased. I have a 50,000 ruble salary and I cannot satisfy the necessities of my family. I cannot feed them. We receive different questions from the Rostov region, for instance. A kid is asking a question. He's asking why the prices for bakery is increasing and the salaries of my parents not. I've already mentioned when people see some average figures, average indicators, it causes questions because average figures generally do not coincide with what people see in real life. We say that the inflation will go down, the prices will go down. Maybe it will be 5.7, 5.8% lower. But the food inflation, for instance, can be even higher, and it is higher. And it depends on the food basket that a person needs. If, for instance, these are protein products, poultry, for instance, then it affects the budget of the family. It's nothing good about that. We also need to point out one more thing. Maybe last thing of the year before that, we were critical about the actions of our colleagues from the government when the prices for eggs have inflated, but now they have decreased by almost 10 or 16%. So these are important factors. Without any doubt, we need to follow closely what is happening in every segment, with every group of population. Regarding families with kids, everything should be centered around families with kids. Just saying that additional measures of support for families with kids will be introduced since the 1st of January next year. For instance, of 13% of the personal income interest for individuals, the families where they have modest income, less than 1.5 minimum wage for a person, of 13%, 7%, most of it will return to the family. I hope there will be a real way to support families with children. And if income of a family is less than 1.5%, then they need additional benefit for every child in the family. Well, I'm not even speaking about other components of supporting families with children. Of course, it is not enough. We understand everything. It's not. We all understand that it is not everything. But what can we do? We will keep improving this system because the policy of the state on the federal and regional levels should focus on that. of course, we'll try to increase the level of salaries so that the income, especially the income of families with children, would not decrease. When we see that when the labor income is increasing, the government should keep their support measures. Well, it is a very well-known topic when a family with children receives some kind of benefits, support, then the labor income increases, but the state reduces the benefits that the family has been receiving. So when the income increases, the overall income with the benefits should not be reduced. I'm returning to this topic, and I ask the government to pay close attention to this topic because it is senseless. The budget does not receive anything from that and cannot receive, and we're destimulating the labor activity of people. Let's return to the audience. Let's give the floor to several people. Well, this sector, we haven't asked anyone from that sector. 2 men, please. Hello, Kristina Smirnova, Tumenska Vremya TV channel. 2 men. I have a question about an unusual facility, 3i Atlas, that is now approaching us. And today, on the 19th of December, well, maybe it's a ship with an engine, maybe just a comet. Well, it will approach Earth. Well, the question is, what the special services tell you? Is it truly an artificial object? There are many theories about that. Tumen is the thermal capital of any of our country. If these are, we're ready to receive any guests, but these are guests from the space. Well, we're not sure about that. So this is the first time we are summarizing all the results on Friday. So, Mr. Putin, if you know about the existence of aliens, please blink an eye. Well, Christina, you said was your name. Well, what I'm going to say, but it should be strictly between us. This is secret information. This is our secret weapon, but we will use it only in a truly critical situation because we are against any weapons being deployed in space. Our scientists know what is happening. This is a comet from another galaxy. That is why it behaves differently compared to the comets from our galaxy. It has a different surface. That is why when it is closer to Sun, there are different processes happening on it. As well as regarding the tail of this comet, it has a different appearance. It's quite big, from 2 to 6 kilometers. Well, let's see. The moon is from us on the distance of 300,000 kilometers, and this object is 100 hundreds of millions kilometers away from us. So we will send it to Jupiter. And in the beginning of the next year, this comet will go out of the solar system. Thank you. So you're not going to blink your eyes. So no. Please, Belarus. Thank you very much, Mr. Putin, for giving me such an opportunity. Victoria Sienkiewicz, First Informational Channel. We have been synchronized, Russia and Belarus. The president of the Congress said that Belarus and Russia should be together. I'm sure you have heard this. We could also build a bridge it's not the first time we're doing this. We are truly glad that the Oreshnik is entering combat duty in Belarus, as well as the tactical nuclear weapon was given back to us. But not everyone is glad about our union between our countries. Poland closes its border to other countries, or the polygons are being created, or our assets are being. They want to rob our assets. They want to steal our assets. What can you say about the actions of these European baby pigs? Thank you for this new diplomatic term. What can you say about the actions of the Western countries on the western borders of our union? As for the term that you have mentioned, well, I was speaking to the military, and I said it. I was not really meaning anyone specifically. I usually never say anything like that. I was speaking in general terms. I was speaking about a group of people, as legal people say. All of this appeared to quite a long time ago. But the relations is what really important, relations between our two countries. I watched live the speech of the president of Belarus at the All-Belarusian Summit, Congress, and I have to congratulate him on that. His speech was very meaningful and excellent. I would like to express my gratitude for this assessment of the state of Russian-Belarusian relations. As for the security issues, we are solving them bilaterally, as well as the context of the CSTO. You have just now mentioned Oreshnik. Alexander Grigorievich spoke about the Russian tactic weapons, nuclear weapons that is being stationed on the territory of Belarus. We regularly have exercises of the groups of armed forces created by our ministries of defense. We are closely cooperating between each other. The security of the Union state is in very reliable hands, and it will be guaranteed without any doubt. Well, it was Belarus. Maybe our guests from NBC, maybe they would like to ask the question. Please, could you give them the mic?
We do not consider ourselves responsible for the death of people. It wasn't us who started this war. This war began after the coup d'etat, anti-constitutional coup d'etat, armed coup d'etat that happened in 2014, and the start of fighting on the part of the Kiev regime heads against their own people in the southeast of Ukraine. On our part, we stopped short of recognizing the autonomy independence of the then breakaway republics of Donetsk and Lugansk. And after we had been deceived and the Minsk arrangements hadn't been implemented, we had to resort to the armed forces to conclude that war that had been started by the Kiev regime with the support of the Western countries. And President Trump is taking serious efforts to conclude this conflict, put an end to this conflict, and I said on many occasions that he is quite sincere in this undertaking. And moreover, during the meeting with President Trump in Anchorage, we agreed upon and virtually approved the proposals of President Trump. So saying that we reject anything is inappropriate and has no grounds. At a preliminary meeting in Moscow, a proposal was made to us, and we were asked to make certain accommodations. When I came to Anchorage, when I arrived, in Anchorage, I said that those would be difficult decisions for us, but we still are in agreement with this trade-off proposed to us. So saying that we reject anything or turn anything down is inappropriate and groundless. So the ball is entirely in the court of our Western so-called opponents, the chiefs of Kiev regime, most importantly, and their European sponsors. We are ready for talks, and we're ready to conclude the conflict by peaceful means. A couple of more questions from the audience. Belgorod, for example. Good day, Mr. President. Belgorod TV channel. Definitely, I must mention that we will be so happy if you find the opportunity to visit us. And today, the Frontline Belgorod region, as well as in other borderline regions, has the issue of communication that is high on the agenda. The UAV attacks, notifications, and remote education for our kids, and diabetes. Children with diabetes have their sensors connected via mobile internet, and that fails without mobile connection. So will you please introduce the sensors for diabetes children, put on the white lists so that they work even during the peril of attacks? And compensations. We receive compensations for the housing that was lost and the second house that was lost, and now that has been cancelled. Will you please help resolve? Wait a second. The second part, for the second home destroyed. So, like if two houses have been destroyed, and this is true for some minor number of families, and people take mortgage loans, and actually the payout that they receive from the government is insufficient. So will you please provide compensation for the second home lost? Thank you. Well, I'll find with your final point. I'll start with your final point. We will definitely work that through, and such matters crop up when we have to respond to emergencies like fires and floods and etc. Here, things are even more dramatic. But such matters in that system and frame of reference when we struggle with after effects of the calamities and disasters can be resolved, and we will do that. And secondly, with respect to connectivity and services and the related issues of education, remote education, and diabetes sensors control, I gather that it's not a matter of the intake of certain drugs, but the control and timeliness of taking these drugs. When the internet is disconnected, it is hard to control the glucose level. I know what you're talking about. So there are restrictions related to the security matters because of the drones attacks. And you mentioned the services, and some of the components of those services are stationed abroad. In this case, it's easier to select targets for attacks for our adversaries. And here we have to switch to domestic software and our own domestic hardware too. This is a way out to see the operation, the functioning of many of these services. And secondly, we can also use the capability of the international manufacturers operating here, but they should transfer their services to Russian soil. Definitely, we will have to work on both of these matters that you have raised. Thank you. I can see no plate, no sign. Paying dues to your modesty. Good afternoon. My name is Jacob Schein. Politica newspaper from Serbia. Thank you for giving me the floor. I apologize for my command of Russian, but I'll bet you understand me. You started the normalization of relationship between Russia and the United States, and all that you get is more sanctions imposed on Russian companies. Some of them are on Serbian soil. I'm referring to NIS. Can you tell me what the Serbian people should expect and what the future developments are likely to be? And my second question is about your meeting with Donald Trump in Alaska. You discussed a new security framework, and there was some secret information about cooperation with NATO. And when Clinton visited you, you also volunteered to join NATO. But I just wonder whether some degree of cooperation between Russia and NATO will be existent in future to avoid a war and live normally. I'll bet that I hope that next year we'll have more talks about peace than war. Thank you for your question. We also would very much like to live in peace next year, getting rid of military conflicts, and I reiterate, we actually would very much like to resolve all contentious issues by way of talks. And I hope that you will be in agreement. We'll have to eradicate the root causes of the conflict so that it shouldn't happen in future for the sake of a lasting, durable, and just peace. With respect to prospective cooperation with NATO, we had it in the past. And we also discussed a membership, first of the USSR, then of Russia, in NATO. But in both cases, we figured out that we were not welcome there. And the promises that had been given to us that NATO would not expand had been ignored, and we had been deceived, and there had been several waves of expansion of NATO, and that entailed moving military infrastructure closer to our border, which causes our legitimate concern. And in this context, a new security system or framework in Europe is very relevant, rather relevant. Even before the breakup of the USSR, some clever people in Europe like this, social democrats in Germany, proposed to establish a new security framework in Europe, not expanding NATO, but establishing a new security framework with the participation of the US, Eastern Europe, and Russia, so that no one should be left behind or put in a difficult situation. Actually, now we don't require anything untoward or extraordinary. We're not saying that a country should not be able to select a way of protecting itself, but this should be a way that wouldn't threaten anyone, including us, would not require anything that wasn't voiced before. We just insist on keeping the promises that were given to us by the Western partners. We were deceived, actually bamboozled, and now we want a reliable system in Europe. Now, with respect to NIS, it is a daunting task, you're right. I mean, that enterprise, that company, despite the desire to improve relations, which is seen on the face, well, the sanctions pressure continues, and that also touches upon our Gazprom Neft oil and gas company owning NIS. And Gazprom Neft invested more than $3 billion into NIS, turning that enterprise into a state-of-the-art and efficient one. And this is the main taxpayer to the budget of Serbia. We know what the developments around this company are, and we have an intergovernmental agreement with Serbia on non-acceptance of any kind of restrictions towards this business entity. And we assume and presume that the leadership of Serbia that is friendly to us will act on its promises and obligations. Otherwise, no one would know how to invest money into an economy, even if an intergovernmental agreement wouldn't be observed. But we have some thoughts of how to move forward together, and we've been pursuing dialogue with our Serbian friends on that, and I hope that we'll find a way out, a necessary, proper way out. If I may, coming back to the question, to the issue that you have touched upon already, but will you focus on it again with respect to the children's benefits accrual? Families with many kids apply for these. They work a lot, but you know, even if they have an excess of 100 rubles of income, kind of they are not eligible to such benefits. And Gulnara is online, wishing to ask a question. Good day, Mr. President. Happy forthcoming New Year. I'm from Tyumen region, the rural settlement of Bar. I received 27,000 rubles per month, and my husband is a driver, getting 80,000 rubles per month, and I work at a kindergarten as a tutor. And we expect more kids, and we participate in different contests and competitions. We have the Ready for Labor Independence marks. And I've been a mother with multiple children for 11 years, and I only once was entitled to a payout, to benefit. And last year we have an excess of income of 100 rubles, and in November an excess of income of 250 rubles. And because of that, we are not entitled to any benefits at all, like the travel benefits or food stuff payouts. And we have 6 kids, and we work a lot. My husband and I, we work quite a lot. And we work extra hours, we moonlight, and we have a small farm. We have chickens, and we actually would like to get some help from the government at the end of the day. Gulnara, actually, I have touched upon this matter in general terms, responding to previous questions of this sort. I fully share your view. You have mentioned the fact that you work a lot and your income goes up. At the same time, the support you receive from the government goes down straight away. So when you earn less, you receive more from the government. So it seems it's kind of destimulating. It's pointless to work more on the face of it. But I believe that this is a mistake, an erroneous policy on the part of the government, and I'm certain that the finance ministry and the government will heed us now. It's not about economizing and trading on families with multiple children is immoral. I agree with you. I think that colleagues will see to that, and this will be resolved with respect to bills, housing bills, and electricity and other bills. I just want to remind you and all people for whom such matters are of importance that, well, the general procedure is as follows. If the spending on housing bills and utilities bills exceed the aggregate income of a family by 22%, the government is obliged to provide support. Everything on top of that 20% should be covered by the government. Are you in the know of that? I'm in the know about all the benefits in some regions. Well, Moscow is a relatively well-to-do region, and here, from 10% of the spending overrun and upwards is the amount that is covered by the regional budget. And with respect to supporting families with multiple children, this is the cornerstone of our welfare policies, and I reiterate that, and I would like the regional and federal authorities to remember that before you pursue any policy. Just think twice how it's going to tell on the incomes of people and families with many children in particular. And the main point of yours was about the reduction of governmental support. If your income goes up, we'll do everything to resolve that. Also, on the part of the working mothers, I hope that Gulnara is hearing us now. And here the child benefit is paid until the child turns 1.5 years of age, and many mothers say that at this age kids are not accepted to the infancy or kindergartens, and very many of them ask to extend this period to 3 years of age of a child. So the maternal leave lasts till a child turns 3. And the kindergartens accept children mostly when they cross the 3 years of age threshold. And, mothers will not be tolerated if they do not return to work. And, very many mothers want the payout to support their kids to be extended till a baby turns 3.
Well, yes, until a child turns 18 months, the family gets the benefit. But, the answer is very simple. There are budget constraints. There is no justification other than this one. But the government will have to think of something on how to address this problem and similar problems. As far as kindergartens are concerned, creche, and whether it's possible for a mother to go to work early, yes, this is one of the ways to address that. Not everything has been done to ensure that. A lot has been done, however, to renovate and rebuild schools. Right now, we're working on upgrading our kindergartens. I would like to ask my colleagues in the regions to listen to me very carefully when issues on renovating kindergartens are addressed. Probably it would be best to also set up crash groups right away. This is the first part of the solution. Secondly, it might seem simple, but still it requires additional attention as well as additional expenditure. We need, namely, to increase the number of hours spent by children in creche and kindergartens, not just 18 hours, probably it has to be extended, but this in turn would require increasing the number of teachers and specialists looking after children, but that would involve increasing the staff, and the government needs to think on how to go about addressing this discrepancy, this gap between 18 months and 36 months. On the whole, however, we've got more or less a refined system for supporting motherhood as well as families with children. Just to cite an example, benefits are provided to women once they get pregnant and until their children turn 18, and sometimes this benefits can be extended until 23 years when students go to universities, if this is a full-fledged education, not just evening classes. As far as families with 3 and more children are concerned, we have to pay particular attention to this issue, this status of heroine mother. It has been improved. Right now, it's tantamount to a year of labor. There's a number of benefits that come with that. There's another component. In the past, additional points were added to the pension, but only 3 children were taken into account when calculating the pensions, whereas right now a new decision has been taken when a pension is calculated. Not just the first 3 children, but the subsequent children are also going to be taken into account, and additional points will be added to the score which is used for calculating the pension. The government will continue improving and enhancing and fine-tuning the system of measures for supporting families with 3 and 2 and more children. Let's get back to the audience. It's been more than 2 hours, and we haven't noticed how time flies by. Kazan, did you want to ask something about Islam? Mr. President, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. Tatar Forum, the city of Kazan in 2026. As you're probably aware, Kazan is going to be the cultural capital of the Islamic world. The decision has been made by the Conference of Organization for Islamic Cooperation, and we know that recently Russia has been steadily improving its ties with the Islamic world as well as with the global south. In Tatarstan, Rustam Minikhanov is pursuing this agenda together with the foreign ministry and also as part of the strategic group for Russia Islamic world vision. What do you think the emphasis should be in Russia's ties with the Islamic world? And the second issue as follows. Is it fair to say that Muslims all across the world view Kazan, Tatarstan, and Russia and view it as what Islam should look like in the modern world? The thing is, the Islamic world is very varied, just as the Christian world is very diverse. You and I both know that, but I'm confident that the example of Tatarstan is positive in the highest degree, and many colleagues of mine from countries with the preponderant Islamic population keep that in mind. They follow closely the experience of Tatarstan, and that is a positive experience. That is a positive experience of coexistence of people of different religions and different ethnic groups, and Tatarstan is an exemplar in that regard. My congratulations to you on that. This has started with the first head of Tatarstan, and Rustam Minikhanov has taken up the baton, and he's doing well. And I'm not surprised that Kazan has been selected as the venue for huge international events for the Organization for Islamic Cooperation. Incidentally, Russia is an observer in that organization, and I was the one who initiated that. I addressed my colleagues and asked them to accept Russia as a country with observer status, and to our pleasure, this was accepted by all of our colleagues from the Islamic world. I was following that with enthusiasm. I was very happy. I was very pleased. That happened a long time ago, but this was the absolutely correct decision from us. More than 10% of the Russian population are Muslim. Well, I'm not gonna cite what the patriarch has told me on the subject, but, you know, Christianity, this is Oriental Christianity, Eastern Christianity, and, you know, as all of our core values are concerned, we share these values. They coincide. And Tatarstan is doing a lot in terms of spirituality, in terms of education, in terms of bringing up children. You know, a special academy has been set up in Tatarstan, which is of huge importance. We, in Russia, we have to prepare and educate experts in Islam. And the same applies to Bashkortostan. And just as we used to do that in the past, we intend to support all traditional religions of the Russian Federation. A little louder? Oh no, let's give a chance to the colleagues. The thing is, we've got this Kazan Forum, which is a yearly event. This venue is growing year in, year out. I would like to ask you whether you intend to visit Kazan Forum this year. The thing is, we've distributed these events among colleagues. Usually I visit St. Petersburg and Vladivostok, whereas the chairman of the Russian government usually visits Sochi for a similar forum, you know, just to bring the very same people to all events. That's why we're trying to redistribute that among ourselves. That said, this is a very important forum, and we'll keep supporting it, because this is yet another thread, another tie that brings us closer together with our friends and allies in the Arab world, in the Islamic world in general, and I think without exaggeration, I can say in our ties with the global south. You know, 3 questions in total. Let's have some respect for one another. Our friends from China. Xinhua, please. That sector, yes. Mr. President, good afternoon. Xinhua Agency, as you said on multiple occasions, Russian-Chinese relations are at the highest historical level. Just this year, Tu and President Xi have met twice, whereas next year 2 important anniversaries will be celebrated. First, 30 years since the establishment of relations of partnership and strategic interaction between Russia and China, as well as 25 years since the signing of the agreement on good neighborliness and cooperation. My question is, what's your take on the achievements of the Russian-Chinese strategic cooperation over the last 3 decades, and what's your vision for the next 3 decades? Well, from the outset, I would like to say that I view President Xi as a reliable friend as well as a stable partner, my reliable friend as well as a partner and an ally of Russia we can count upon. And probably this gives us the key to understanding the development of the ties between Russia and China. These relations are developing in a steady fashion. Of course, the agreements you've mentioned are important, namely the establishment of the strategic partnership, but most important is practice, what we're doing in our daily interactions across all avenues and all directions. We've cited some figures. The statistics from Russia and China vary a little bit, but on the whole, it's around 240, 250 billion US dollars. That's less than the countries of the EU taken together, but on a country-by-country basis, Russia ranks first with among China's trade partners. It's 240, 250 billion between China and Russia, but with EU, China has a 700 billion US dollars trade. But if you take individual countries, then of course Russia ranks first. Of course, China has very big trade with Japan, with the US, with South Korea. But if we look at Europe, then we'll see that Russia ranks first. And these relations are developing, entering into different spheres and domains, and what is a particularly source of joy for me, it covers high-tech, education, humanitarian ties, exploration of outer space. We cooperate. And this is something that testifies to the high level of trust between our countries. We even cooperate in the military field, and we conduct joint drills on a regular basis. Our strategic aviation carries out patrols on a regular basis, and the same goes for our joint drills on the ground. And I think it would be fair for me to underscore once again that Russian-Chinese cooperation is a significant factor of stability across the world. Our defense minister